All right. Hopefully everybody can see the screen. All right. And I just wanted to open up with thanking everybody for taking time out of their busy day to join us for the Ag in the Classroom Saskatchewan Annual General Meeting. Most of you will know me. My name is Sarah Shimko. I'm the Executive Director of Agriculture in the Classroom. And I just wanted to open here with a land acknowledgement, acknowledging that we are settled on the traditional territories of the Cree, Dene, Dakota, Nakota, Lakota, Siksika, Anishinaabe peoples, and the homeland of Métis Nation. We pay our respects to First Nations and Métis ancestors of this place and reaffirm our relationship with one another. A few meeting, tips and notes that this meeting is being recorded, as you will have noticed. If you have any questions throughout the meeting, please feel free to type them into the chat. And then Leo will let Dee know that there is a question and we will respond to it. The votes take place through a poll, and we'll ask when Dean calls for a motion for the mover and seconder to write in the chat, I move or I second, to make sure that we can record that and vote using the poll when it appears. And I do ask on the honor system that you only vote if an M is in front of your name and that you are a member. And with that, I would like to turn the meeting over to Dean Elliott, who is the chair of the Ag in the Classroom Board.
Well, good morning, all. Again, thanks for showing up. This is our second run, I believe, at just a virtual meeting. For those who joined us in Regina last week or the week before there, we've separated the meet and greet where we can just get out and have fun from the guts of just doing the business. So I've been on the board for, I think, 5 or 6 years, been the chair the last 2 or 3. Come from a education background, worked with Saskatoon Public as a science teacher for a bunch of years, then 20 years at the Ministry of Education as a science consultant, and now semi-retired and working for the Distance Learning Corporation, writing locally developed curriculum and a few other things on the side. I'm glad you're willing to take the time to show up and listen to us talk about where we're at with Ag in the Classroom this year and help us get through the parts of the business that are just a little more routine around accepting the agenda and a few motions around audit reports, etc. So this is our agenda, and let's see how we can do with our first vote of the day. And you should have all this in your meeting packages. Would love to have somebody in the chat move acceptance of the agenda and somebody second it. Perfect. I got Frank for moving, Tracy for seconding, and the poll will now go out. Hey, we need a few more of you there. Bring those phones. Okay, good enough. We're over 50% in favor, so I declare the agenda adopted. Thank you. Next, I will quickly introduce our board members, all of whom are on the call somewhere. Sarah Bailey, who most of you may have known as Sarah Hepner, Senior Manager of Marketing and Eastern Canadian Sales for AccuFast. She's our Vice Chair, and she's also been on the board since 2021. Brendan Forwald, relatively new, just 1 year. He's an ag business consultant with Maverick Ag, and we've put him to work on our finance committee. Byron Eberly, also fairly new, 1 year. He's also an ag business consultant with FCC, and he's also heavily engaged in our finance committee. Claire Lettingham is the public trust specialist for the Ministry of Ag. She's been in for the last year, filling in for Carly when she's out on her mat leave, and Carly will be returning sometime in the next few months. Jessica Lovich, who's in a barn with a bunch of cows and a bunch of kids this morning. So she's living the ag world. Chair of the governance committee. She's a dairy farmer just across the street or across the highway from Balgony, and she's been on the board for 5 years. Jessica Potter-Desky has also been on the board for 5 years. She's been chair of the HR committee for a few years, and she is newly minted as the executive director of Saskatchewan Sheep. I'm sure there's more to the rest of that name that I didn't get right. Sorry, Jessica. Tracy Broughton is the executive director of Sask Canola. She's been with us on the board for 1 year, working on the HR committee mostly. And then we have 4 new members this year, so that puts the board up to our maximum of 12. We've been running with 10 for a while, so we're looking forward to having some more people to help share the work and to bring some more ideas. So from Horizon School Division, the Superintendent of Indigenous Education, Brian McNabb. Jason Croswell, out in the Melville area. He's the manager of agri-stability compliance for Saskatchewan Crop Insurance. Leslie Kelly, a farmer, entrepreneur, mental health advocate. If you get bored later today, you just log on to High Heels and Canola Fields, and you'll suddenly lose the rest of your day browsing through there. And Rochelle Manciere, who's a senior consultant for Hawkeye Strategies. So that's the 12 new board members who all get to work in about an hour and 20 minutes. And leaving us this year, Robin Henry's been with us for a couple of years, grain farmer from down in the Hodgeville area. And Ashton Wilson, who's a partner at MNP in Saskatoon. She's been on the board for 6 years, and she's served as treasurer and chair of the finance committee. So I thank those two for the work they've put in. I'm looking forward to working with the 4 new members and the rest of us continuing to focus on the strategic direction for ag in the classroom. Next, back to some of our motions here. The 2025 AGM minutes were distributed in your package. And I will need a motion to approve those minutes. So again, in the text, if we can get a mover and a seconder. All right, that was quick. Valerie moving and Claire seconding. Poll can come out. All in favor? Okay, we still need a few more to click there. Make sure we've got over 50% voting.
Yeah, Dean, we're there.
Okay, I guess I just don't see exactly the same results you do. Perfect.
There's 18 members on the call.
Okay, thank you. Oh, I got you. Okay. Okay, that motion is approved. Thank you very much. And then I will turn it over to Ashton or Byron for the auditor's report.
Yeah, I think it's me, Dean Byron.
Okay.
So I can jump in here.
Perfect.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Just going to go through quickly here the auditor's report. If you want to switch to the next slide there, please. Perfect. Overall, it was a clean audit. No risks of concern that were identified. No significant, oh my goodness. Apologies, I'm just getting over a cold. No significant difficulties encountered at all in the process. Strong financial performance this year, $112,000 surplus, a little over $2 million in revenue. Strong financial position, as you can see, $1.24 million in net assets, $950,000 in our reserve for stability and growth. Overall revenue growth, which means some stable sponsorships and grants, growth in projects. Some keynotes receivables were up just due to timing of those set of receivables. Deferred revenue again was up, again, just future funding secured. Investments have dropped a little bit, and income and expenses were close to last year. Next slide, please. Yeah, just a brief summary here of the overall balance sheet. As you can see, solid position, or what we feel is a solid position. If there's any questions, let me know. If not, we'll just kind of breeze through this. Next slide, please. Strong revenue position, up a little bit from last year. Overall, good. Again, $112,000 to the positive at the bottom. Next slide, please. Yeah, again, just a brief summary of the net assets at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year. Next slide, please. Sorry, just breezing through this. If there's any questions, please let me know. If not, no one wants to hear a banker talk about audited financial statements, so I'll breeze through it, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I will call for the motion to approve the 2025 auditor's report. So I get a mover and a seconder in the chat, please. Okay, we've got Michael Katesman moving and Sarah B. seconding. And just before we do vote, I guess if there's any questions for Byron, I'll give you a minute or so to type anything into the chat or just ask verbally if there were any questions. Okay, hearing nothing, we can put the poll up. And now I understand the math better. So this is approved and we can move forward. Thank you all. And we need to follow that with another motion. And we would like to appoint McClelland DeBoucher again as our auditors so that they can conduct the audit for 2026. So this means I need another person to move and a seconder. We've got Leslie Kelly moving. And Jessica P. seconding. Thank you. Poll can go up. Perfect. And that motion is passed. Thank you very much. That's not near as much fun as doing it in person, I can tell you that. Being a classroom teacher, I like to see the faces in front of me, but we've got it working pretty good on here, so it's much appreciated. Hey, one of our big tasks this year was bylaw revisions, and we are going to see if Jessica Lovich is available in the barn to give us an update on the bylaw revisions.
I am here as long as you can hear me.
Yep, perfect. Loud and clear.
Okay, so the bylaws, everyone should have had a bit of a review previously. We've been working on this for about a year, and so we did touch base with all the members. Most of the revisions to this year have to do with individual membership. So maybe if Sarah will bring up the screen, I'll just quickly walk through to make sure everyone knows what they are as you're going to vote on them. So in section 3 of the qualification of members, there was a few changes here, including individuals or corporate bodies who support and promote the mission and values of the association will gain membership and be approved. That was the same. It's always been that way. The newer part is that the individuals elected to the board of directors will gain a membership or will need to purchase a membership in the association. That's really the biggest change in this section. However, just a quick review of the rest of it. If you're not abiding by the bylaws or the mission, the board of directors can withdraw your membership. And then on D, any individual who holds the membership by virtue of their election to the board, it will end upon them ceasing to serve on the board. However, we encourage and we hope that they will continue to be memberships, and they may obtain individual membership, especially if you're coming as an individual and not from a corporate body. All members, of course, have the privileges of membership, which mostly includes the right to vote at the meetings. Corporate members will designate a representative to vote on their behalf. So this is a bit of a new nuance through this one, I believe, where if you're a corporate member and you put forward a name and they're elected to the board, we want to make sure that the corporate membership still has the eligibility to vote. So your member will purchase individual membership, and so they'll have a vote, and then you'll have to designate someone else to attend, like the AGM today, to vote on behalf of the corporation. So there's a bit of a new nuance through that section, I believe. Yeah, all members will purchase a membership, and the membership fees will be established by the board of directors. That is that main section. And then in number 7, where it's talking about directors, some pretty standard stuff where you have to be 18 years of age, competent, not bankrupt. That has to do with the nonprofits. In good standing, like typical part of being directors, or sorry, just scrolling through here. Directors have to be Canadian residents. The majority must live in Saskatchewan. No director can be a salaried employee of the association. And the board composition, this is kind of the newer part of this section, just some rewording into it, where one position is reserved for the representative that's nominated by the government of Saskatchewan. That's kind of a non-negotiable piece to that. And then up to 4 positions for nominees as chosen and appointed by the board of directors, which are to bring a broad diversity and range of relevant skills and expertise to the board. So if you're familiar with our slate positions, that is talking about the slate. It's just got a few new a bit of a wording change in there, and up to 7 positions as elected by the members. And I think there's one more slide. Yeah. Number of directors will be between 8 and 12. And upon election or appointment, the board of directors shall be required to purchase a membership. So that was further up in section 3 as well. So I think that is the full review in short form. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at them. Absolutely, I'll turn it back over to Dean for any questions regarding that after you make your motion, I guess.
Yeah, so again, we'll ask for a mover and a seconder to approve those bylaws, and then we'll open it up for any discussion before actually voting. So I got Robin moving and Rochelle seconding. Thank you. So we'll open the floor, or the Zoom room as it were. Any questions or discussion around those changes to the bylaws? On our side, it feels like it's been a long, long journey to get these revised the way we wanted, but I would say your board is very happy with the wording we have now, that it truly represents what we've been hoping to have the intent be. Okay, no more questions. Then I will call for the poll, please. Perfect. That motion has passed. Thank you very much, everyone. And that's mostly it for motions. Now we get to have a little more fun. At least Sarah and I do. We get to do our little talk parts. And I will just bring my report from the board. It'll overlap a little bit with Sarah's, except I'm just going to identify a few topics that end up. She'll talk in a lot more depth. this is one of my favorite slides related to everything we do in ag in the classroom. We just have an incredible reach. Now, it's taken an awful lot of years to get here, an awful lot of dedication and staff and funding so that we can do those things. Many of you have heard me speak in the past. In my role at the Ministry of Education, I worked with probably 40 outreach groups, and Ag in the Classroom I always held up as the gold standard for how much is being done, how many different types of resources, and the ability to reach students all over this province. So as you can see on the slide, there was 80,000 unique students. That means they were signed up with a teacher who's verified through our OMS system, 34,000 others who just weren't checked off that exact same way. You can see how many schools, big uptake from homeschools, and the number of communities reached. So in Saskatchewan right now, we have about 190,000 K-12 students, and that's counting publicly funded, independent schools, First Nations schools. Now, it's hard to get an exact number because there's so many categories, but it's about 190,000, about 12,000 teachers, and about 750 schools. So the reach is broad, and working on changing that reach is part of what we're going to continue to talk about this morning. But very, very proud of the fact that we are all over the province, which when you're in a province so dependent on agriculture, it's critical that we're reaching students and teachers all over the province. So next we'll take a look at our work, and the board has spent the last 3 to 4 years really transitioning, evolving to become more strategic in focus. And that's not necessarily always been a really easy transition as we figure out what that means. And between us and Sarah, sort of establishing some new ways of working together. And last year, literally still coming off of COVID and some of the effects that had on the organization, sort of culminated in last year being one of the busiest for the board in a long time. So all the committees were wrapping up some major projects. And so this year we're gonna just try and not take on quite so many projects, but we had the investment policy updated. Just like many of the things we've updated lately, so wording is clearer. And so the direction for our investment managers is very clear, and the limits, as Byron alluded to in the audited report, with where our investments are. So that was one of the big jobs for the Finance Committee. Governance, as we just heard, has been working on revising these bylaws. And it may seem like 3 slides on a PowerPoint. Don't you probably wonder how it could have taken a couple of years of discussion, but it represents a change in how we view members, and especially for those of you that are involved in commodity boards, it's a whole different way of how members are represented on your organizations. But we really wanted this focus on individual members, which doesn't mean that we have suddenly forgotten about everybody in ag. It's this board members specifically really need to be independent. HR is close to wrapping up a couple of their big projects and really refining, strengthening, better wording of the executive director role and evaluation, and a succession plan. And of course, the succession plan we all hope is that we're all retired before Sarah leaves, but we recognize we do have to have more in writing. And part of next year and a half or two coming out of this will be clarifying all the staff roles, evaluations, and where all that fits in. So that's been where HR has been focused. And then the board as an entity has, it was time to review the strategic plan, which I'll get to in just a minute. And that was sort of our big overriding task at the board. So we sort of are collectively catching our breath and feeling like, yeah, we've got a whole lot of work done. A lot of documentation is very clear that we believe anyway, and will allow us to really focus on growing the organization. So let's take a look at the strategic plan. And again, much of what I'm going to just highlight here in a minute or two, Sarah will spend a little more time in depth on. So you can see we want to deepen the impact, build the financial resistance, cultivate champions, and expand capacity. So what does that mean? Deepen the impact doesn't just mean getting into more classrooms, right? It's very easy to look at that as really a pretty simplistic way, but there's no doubt that the more touch points students have throughout their K to 12 journey with agriculture, the more they understand food safety, where food comes from, and then as they're getting into secondary, starting to look more seriously at ag-related industries or the whole sector as places we could work. So to deepen that impact, you have to understand the impact that we're having, and Sarah will discuss the impact framework and how we're going to be able to measure that a lot better than we have in the past. Financial resilience. Ag in the Classroom is an interesting organization. We were talking about this earlier this morning. We talked about it a bit at the meet and greet. Some of the other organizations I'm involved with have a handful of funders and get millions of dollars from a handful of funders. Ag in the Classroom has pages of funders, and people are in it all, and organizations come in at all sorts of levels, which is fine. What we need to focus on to be able to develop long-term programming is consistent year-to-year funding, which of course Leah's out working on all the time, and ideally unrestricted funding, so that as we develop longer-term projects, we can take money from various funders and say, hey, here's the things we're working on, and this is how we're putting your money to work to educate kids and teachers about agriculture. Champions are essential. For me, coming from the K-12 side, so many programs I've been involved in when there's a teacher in the school becomes the champion for something, and then all of a sudden our efforts get multiplied without us having to do as much work as getting that champion on board. But we also need those champions in the industry, right? I mean, it's very easy, no matter what sector you're working in, to say, oh, we see a shortage of employees coming up in the next 5 or 10 years, or we're not really happy with the way the public always perceives our industry. Well, then we need champions out there to multiply the messages and the efforts that we're putting forth through Ag in the Classroom Saskatchewan. And lastly, expanding our capacity. So I would say Sarah's probably in a continual staff review position, right? Sometimes some of the positions are funded through government grants and other ways of funding that aren't long-term permanent positions. And really focusing coming up in the next few years on a resource review. If you had to list everything Ag in the Classroom does, that would take 10 minutes. And so it's going to be a real focus moving forward on what's sort of the ROI for every program. And are there some that they're still successful, but they're older, maybe they need to be sunset. So we have to look at what do we have the capacity and where do we get the most bang for our funding dollars to get these messages out to the teachers, students in the community. So lastly, the last slide there, that's our tree of growth. And it comes from all these different aspects working together, volunteers, teachers, the board, funders, partners, students. And when we work together, we connect students to real-world agriculture with engaging, meaningful opportunities to learn about food, farming, and the entire ag sector. So on behalf of the board, that's where we're at. And just before I turn it over to Sarah, a big thank you to Sarah and the entire Ag in the Classroom staff for all they have done over the past year. and helped us move forward with all our strategic thinking. So thank you. And Sarah, the time is now yours.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dean. Yeah, Dean alluded a lot to. Sarah's going to go into a lot more detail. And I'm going to change things up a little bit this year because I think many of you have heard me talk a lot. And while, I think I have wonderful things to say, and I love to share so many of the stories about what we do here at Ag in the Classroom. We have an annual report that's pretty fantastic this year, thanks to Amber, our communications manager right now. And I'm going to be a little bit lighter on the content and the details in my presentation because I really want to encourage everybody to go through the report. And I'm going to maybe tell you a little bit more, I think, in a story format about the impact that we're having and how we're changing what we're doing. So a few months ago here, students participated in a career expo at Agribition. So this student stood at a welding station for the first time. They'd never tried welding before. They didn't know if they would be any good at welding. And after the session, they said, I felt proud of myself. I want to go into welding because I like to do things I enjoy. Moments like this matter. But it's not really about the welding because just a few steps away, another student was controlling a robot through a simulated farm. Another student was testing blood in a veterinary station. Another one was experimenting with food science. Another student was extracting DNA. Different experiences, different interests, but the same outcome, that students were starting to see themselves in something that they had never considered before. But that moment doesn't just start in high school, it starts much earlier. It starts with the students who are planting seeds in the classroom, watching it grow, beginning to understand where their food comes from. It starts with trying a new food for the first time, asking questions, students making connections. Really, it starts with this curiosity. And so what's happening though underneath that curiosity is that there's a growth in what students, there's a shift. So before our events, we're starting to ask teachers where students are at the beginning. We're asking students where their knowledge are. If we're lucky, that students will say that food comes from a farm. Often they'll just tell us that it comes from the grocery store, maybe DoorDash, comes from their mom's kitchen. But after our programs, when we ask the teachers, when we ask the students, we start to see the change because not only do all students know that food now comes from a farm, they start to understand that it's part of a connected system, that food, science, technology, people, decisions are all working together in this complex system called agriculture, and that agriculture is actually impacting their daily life. Because by the time a student gets to the age where they're standing at that welding station or exploring robotics or veterinary science, they're not starting from zero. They've already been on part of this journey, starting with the curiosity where they've asked questions, where they've started to understand about agriculture and modern agriculture practices. Importantly, they've started to build that connection to the food that they're eating, to their daily lives, to the communities, to the world around them. And then they're starting to get confidence. And what I mean by that is they're starting to see that they can have a place in agriculture. And that is the impact that we are building across the grades. And we're starting to measure it. So for example, before the ThinkAg Career Expo, only 11% of the students said that they were very aware of careers in agriculture. That tripled by the end of the event when 34% said that they were very aware of careers in agriculture. And even more than that, 57% of the students at that career expos said that they would actually consider a career in agriculture, not just welding, in trades, technology, science, food, business, agronomy. The activities that we're doing are actually helping students to shift their mindset and really consider a career in agriculture. But when we asked students what stood out the most, yep, some talked about welding. They also talked about robotics, veterinary science, agronomy, food science. They really talked about the hands-on learning. And what we're hearing, what they're telling us, is that students, they don't just want to learn, really, they really want to experience. And this is absolutely in line with what teachers are telling us. 100% of the teachers said that they would bring their students back to the Career Expo. 95% rated the expo excellent. The other 5% rated it good. So that's amazing. But really, the powerful feedback comes when teachers tell us the students, they weren't ready to leave. The hands-on learning experience, it's something students crave. It felt like they learned more in a class than they learned more than they would in a classroom with books. And this is what engagement looks like. But the impact isn't just on the students, it's also on the teachers. 100% of the teachers said that their own understanding increased, and 100% of them said that they were going to take back that learning and bring more ag education into their classroom. What does that mean? It means that students are being reached earlier, more often, and more meaningfully. And that's how one single experience can actually reach hundreds more students. So we can show this change now, not just what we do, but what it leads to. Because for years we've had the stories. I have been here for 20 years. I've got the stories. I know the experience. I'm like, this is what's happening. And where we're shifting to is the proof in that, so that we can show that awareness is increasing, perspectives are shifting, connections are building, and these future possibilities, they're really opening up. Because if we can measure the impact, we can grow the impact. And that is the trajectory that we are on through all of the background work that we're doing with our impact framework and the shift in how we're evaluating. It's why strategically we've decided we want to deepen this impact. We're now able to start measuring it. And when we say grow, it's like Dean said, we want to ultimately at some point be in all of the classrooms, but right now over the next 3 years, intentionally, we are trying to grow that impact and deepen that reach among a smaller number of students. And we can only do this. This is only possible because we have amazing people who are making this happen. And so I just wanted to take a few minutes and introduce the team. And some of you will know some of our team members. You'll see them on the call. Leah Hermanson, she's our fund development manager. She is the relationship builder. She is the boots on the ground. If you haven't heard from her yet or received a proposal or asked to have a meeting set up, she's probably noting your name down right now, and she'll be following up with you. Chandra Gazakowski is on leave right now. She is our communications manager. And we were very, very fortunate that we didn't skip a beat at all in the communications when Amber Solda joined us. So we're thrilled to have Amber with us. She's also very, I think, passionate, and farming and agriculture is really near and dear to her heart, and that comes through in the work that she's doing. Paige Pister is our programs manager, and so all of the good things that we're doing out in the community through the food farms, through the Career Expo, all of these rich stories of the change that's happening in students that we're able to share is thanks to Paige. And I actually just want to take a minute to acknowledge that Paige has been with the organization for a number of years. And she is going to be going on a new adventure, one province over. And we're going to not have the privilege of having her leading our programs team. And I want to thank you, Paige, for all of your years that you've given to Ag in the Classroom. And Paige is the person who always knows somebody. Like, it doesn't matter what the situation is, Paige knows somebody. And that's because she has been able to build like rich and deep connections and relationships throughout the province in the agriculture world and more. So, Paige, we wish you just the absolute best as you start your new adventure, and know that you will be very missed here in Saskatchewan. Deanne Zacharias is the person who makes sure all the bills get paid and, sends out the invoices to all you lovely people who help keep us ticking here. So Deanne's in Mexico right now, so isn't part of the meeting here, but I might make her watch the recording anyways. Lindsay Rudd is our sustainability program coordinator and really the Think Ag lead here in our province. Mary Sidlowski is currently on a traveling leave, I would say. She's will return to us in June, but Mary runs sort of the middle years and high school programs with us. Greg is our Mr. Green Thumb School Garden Program Coordinator, managing well over 200 schools involved in our Little Green Thumbs and Little Green Sprouts garden. Greg is also a musician and an artist, and we love having Greg on our team, but probably not as much as the students who get to have Greg do presentations for him. Anna McDonald is a program coordinator. She's based out of Moose Jaw, and if anybody here participated in Canadian Agriculture Literacy Month this year, Anna was the brains behind the resource and all of the coordination matchup. And yeah, we love having Anna as part of our team here. Jordan Lee Minto is our program and communications coordinator. So if you follow us on social media, Jordan is the magic behind all of our posts and our sharing. And if you don't follow us on social media, I hope that you will right after this call. And Jordan is based out of Fort Capel. Grace Christensen came to us on a short-term internship, and we've been so impressed with her that she's still with us. And Grace manages our partnership program with the food bank in Regina, and also is backfilling a number of Mary's programs right now while she's on leave. Rachel Andres is our resource administrator, so she is the one who sends out the hundreds of learning kits and books and print resources throughout the year here. Katrina Fink joined us about last June, and she works together supporting myself and the leadership team to keep things running smoothly here in the office. Will Brooks is the National Program Director for Little Green Thumbs and Little Green Sprouts. So Will joined us a year and a bit ago, and he has been putting together all of these amazing systems and processes for Little Green Thumbs, not just in Saskatchewan here, but nationally. And so he's had the privilege of getting to travel to a few different places across our great country here, helping the program to grow. And helping Will out is Cassidy Lamb, who does the logistics for the Little Green Thumbs. So I want to extend a huge thank you to the team for all of the work that you do, going above and beyond, helping each other out. We really wouldn't be able to do what we do without this amazing team. So thank you for that. Thank you also to the board. It was a busy year. We took on a lot. We had only 9 board members as well this last year. And we took on a lot. And I think I'm excited to maybe maintain a little bit more of a reasonable pace for this year. And I did want to take a moment to acknowledge and say thank you to Robin and Ashton. Robin, I love the energy that you brought and your ideas to the board. And Ashton, man, she whipped our financial systems and processes and procedures into place so that the board could really provide the oversight that is important for the board to provide. So we are going to miss you on the finance committee, and I'm sure that the new members taking over will have big shoes to fill. So together, the board, the staff, but all of the sponsors who make this possible, because as Dean said, we don't have four partners and $1 million. We have a lot of partners who range from small dollars, to that significant, that $50,000, that $100,000 mark. The Ministry of Agriculture, big supporters of us. Thank you. Thank you for believing in us, for supporting the mission of Ag in the Classroom, because it's really important work that we're doing. There's jobs that are going to need to be filled. There is a lot of innovation that needs to happen in this industry to remain competitive in the world. There's lots going on, and we do need the students who are out there today in the classrooms to want to pursue agriculture as a career. We also want those students to support agriculture in a number of different ways that can happen. So thank you to our sponsors, to the many partners who contribute expertise or help us run an event. Thank you for that. And the volunteers, the 500 plus volunteers who participate in Canadian Agricultural Literacy Month and Food Farms and Ag Experience and Agribition. Volunteers really are the heartbeat of the organization. And together, everybody is really helping us make the difference. And we've got a lot of work to do. I'm super proud of the numbers. I mean, 80,000 students, 401,000 learning experiences, 263 communities across the province. That's amazing. And we have a lot to do, because we're still turning down teachers. Our amazing farm tour program this year, we were able to accept 53 classrooms, and they went out to visit farms, and it was great. But 99 teachers applied, which meant we had to say no to that many teachers. And that happens with a number of our programs. We're still saying no, and we don't want to say no because those teachers are likely not bringing agriculture education into their classroom if they aren't able to get into a program with us or access one of our learning kits. We know that because the teachers tell us that. So amazing work that we've all done, and we've got a lot of work to do. So I'm really excited about our 3-year strategic plan and continuing to move forward. So with that, I want to encourage everybody to take a look at our 2025 annual report. We will be sending hard copies out to all of our members, and it's online. If you aren't a member and you're on the call and you're like, wow, I really want this print copy of this resource, I'm pretty sure that you can email us and we'll send one out to you. Lots of information in the annual report about how we're driving change in the classrooms across the province. So final shout out to the many partners and sponsors who help make things possible. And I believe with that, Dean, I think I'll turn it back to you actually and let you wrap things up.
Thanks,
I'm
Sarah.
happy to answer questions too. I think we have a few minutes.
Can you back up to the first sponsor slide? Yeah, just want to hit on this one more time. It's relatively easy to see that you've put money in and your crop has come up. It's easy to see that a new air seeder has come off the production line. It's relatively easy to know if you got money from your financial organization. It is much more difficult to know that money you've put into an outreach organization has a specific defined output. And our output is, as we continue to preach, making students and teachers more aware of the agriculture sector, science-based information, so that they have that deeper understanding of where their food comes from, how the sector works, and how it's just a really good place to be employed. So I'm sure there's times when some of you are making decisions about funding here. It is more difficult to see, because there's not 9 more widgets that you get for $43. But we're working diligently to come up with better measures of understanding our impact, and then we're going to throw the trust word out that we trust, and if you can go to the next slide or so, that we trust that you trust us, that we are doing everything we can to maximize every dollar that comes in to get to those classrooms and get to those teachers so that we're not turning anybody down. And then based on that, it's just call Leah, and tell her how you could send some funding to help with our various programs. But go through the report, go through the website and take a look at all the different programs we do. And I think the last thing I'll say to sponsors is, yes, the money is a very valuable resource, but your people are a huge resource. Being able to volunteer to help, whether it's for Canadian Agriculture Literacy Month, whether it's helping at Agribition with a farm fair, whichever of our resources, the staff can't do it all. And we don't just need you because you're a body, we need you because you're passionate about this sector. So again, the resources are helpful, but we need the people. And we hope to keep doing this, and we hope that year after year, you're very satisfied with the return on what we're doing. Throw it open just before we do this motion if there are any questions for Sarah or I. And luckily, I'm a teacher, so I have a really good wait time. Well, feel free to contact us anytime. And just a reminder to staff, motions to adjourn don't need seconders and votes. We just need a person who motions to adjourn. So whoever wants to be the last person to make a motion at this AGM. Thank you, Frank. Frank has moved that we adjourn, and we are adjourned. Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day.